Understanding yourself is one of the most empowering things you can do in life. It allows you to live authentically, make decisions that align with your values, and build deeper connections with others. But how do we go about truly understanding ourselves? It's a journey, not a destination. And it requires patience, honesty, and vulnerability. To begin, we need to acknowledge that understanding yourself isn't about fitting into a specific mold or meeting expectations. It's about embracing your own unique story and emotions and recognizing that they play a key role in shaping who you are. It's about learning to be comfortable in your own skin, accepting your flaws, and celebrating your strengths. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, but in truth, it is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. So, to be vulnerable means to open yourself up to the world around you, allowing others to see you as you truly are without the masks or walls that we so often put up to protect ourselves. It is an act of courage, of showing up as your most authentic self, even when you don't have all the answers or when you fear judgment. At its core, vulnerability is about being honest with yourself and others. It's about acknowledging your true feelings and experiences, whether they are joy, sadness, fear, or frustration, and accepting that these emotions are valid. Vulnerability is not the absence of strength, but the willingness to lean into uncertainty and emotional discomfort, trusting that it will lead to growth, connection, and a deeper understanding of yourself. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we embrace the fullness of our humanity. We stop pretending to be someone we're not and let go of the need for perfection. It's in these moments of vulnerability that we often experience our most profound breakthroughs. By being open, we invite others to connect with us on a deeper level, because when we show our true selves, we create space for others to do the same. This leads to more authentic, meaningful relationships based on mutual understanding and trust. However, vulnerability does not come easily. In a world that prizes strength, control, and success, vulnerability can feel like a risk. We may fear rejection, criticism, or appearing weak, and that fear can keep us from showing our true selves. But it's important to remember that the vulnerability we show does not make us less worthy or less capable. In fact, it makes us more human and paradoxically more resilient. Being vulnerable also means being willing to accept and share our imperfections. It's about recognizing that we are not perfect and we do not have to be. Vulnerability allows us to let go of the belief that we must always have it together, to admit that we are struggling, that we don't know all the answers, and that sometimes we need help. It's in these moments of honesty that we cultivate greater self-awareness, because when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we can truly begin to understand what we need emotionally, mentally, and physically, and make space for those needs to be met. In our journey towards self-understanding, vulnerability is an essential step. It allows us to peel back the layers we've built over time, revealing the true essence of who we are. Through vulnerability, we learn to trust ourselves and others, and we begin to embrace the messy, beautiful, and complex process of living authentically. It's not always easy, but it is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful tools we have in learning to understand ourselves fully. Shame is one of the most powerful and insidious emotions we can experience. It is often deeply rooted in the fear of being unworthy, flawed, or unlovable. It thrives in the spaces where we believe we have failed, where we've made mistakes, or where we've been told that we aren't enough. For many of us, Shame can shape our sense of self and influence our behaviors in ways that are difficult to recognize or challenge. However, if we want to truly understand ourselves, we must confront and address the role that shame plays in our lives. Shame often manifests as a voice in our heads that tells us we are not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, or not worthy of love and belonging. It tells us that our flaws or mistakes define who we are and that they are irreparable. This voice can be harsh and relentless, and over time, it becomes easy to internalize these messages and believe them to be truths about our identity. We may go through life hiding parts of ourselves, masking our true feelings, or avoiding situations where we might be judged, all because we fear that exposure to the world will only reinforce the belief that we are flawed and unworthy. Confronting shame means challenging these deeply ingrained beliefs. It requires us to recognize that shame is not an inherent part of our identity, but rather a learned emotional response, often rooted in past experiences or messages we have internalized from others, whether from our families, society, or cultural norms. By acknowledging that shame does not define us, we begin the process of dismantling its power. One of the first steps in confronting shame is to recognize it for what it is. When we feel a pang of shame, we must pause and ask ourselves, what is this emotion telling me? Why do I feel like I am not enough in this moment? These questions help us to separate the emotion from the truth about who we are. In many cases, shame is a distortion, an exaggerated or misleading view of ourselves that is not based on reality. Recognizing this helps us to regain perspective and challenge the narratives that shame tries to impose on us. Another crucial part of confronting shame is understanding that it thrives in secrecy. When we hide our shame, when we keep it locked away and buried, it gains strength. But when we speak about our shame, when we share our feelings and our struggles with others, we take away its power. Vulnerability is key in this process. It takes immense courage to open up about our feelings of inadequacy or fear of rejection, but doing so can create a powerful sense of connection and healing. By sharing our experiences, we invite others to do the same. And in doing so, we realize that we are not alone in our struggles. So the best middle grade for me, significant, starts with a narrative. It's also essential to recognize that confronting shame requires compassion, both for ourselves and others. When we begin to face the shame that has held us back, we must do so with kindness, not self-criticism. It's easy to fall into the trap of being hard on ourselves for having felt shame in the first place, but this only perpetuates the cycle. Instead, we must learn to be gentle with ourselves, acknowledging that it is okay to have flaws, make mistakes, and experience difficult emotions. This self-compassion allows us to heal and move forward rather than staying stuck in a place of self-rejection. A key part of confronting shame is also recognizing that our worth is not defined by our mistakes, our failures, or our imperfections. We are not our flaws, and our mistakes do not dictate our value. Shame often tries to tell us that our worth is conditional, that we must meet certain standards or expectations to be worthy of love and acceptance. But in truth, we are inherently worthy simply because we are human. By internalizing this belief, we begin to shed the weight of shame and step into a more liberated version of ourselves. One that is free to grow, to make mistakes, and to embrace vulnerability. So for example, self-reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have for understanding ourselves. It is the process of looking inward, of pausing, stepping back, and taking an honest look at our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and experiences. Self-reflection is not just about observing ourselves from an external perspective, but about diving deep into the internal workings of our minds and hearts, uncovering patterns, beliefs, and motivations that shape who we are. At its core, self-reflection is about becoming more self-aware. It's the conscious effort to step away from the noise of everyday life and take a moment to assess where we've been, where we are, and where we are going. It allows us to take stock of our choices, actions, and emotional responses, giving us a clearer understanding of our strengths and weaknesses, our values and beliefs, and our desires and fears. One of the first steps in self-reflection is creating space for it. In our fast-pacing world, we often rush through our days, going from task to task, reacting to situations, and rarely pausing to reflect on the deeper meaning behind our actions. Yet without this space, it becomes difficult to truly understand why we do the things we do or why we feel the way we feel. Mindfulness practice takes this unconscious mind that's dominating our daily lives. In order to reflect meaningfully, we need to create moments of stillness, whether through journaling, meditation, or simply taking time to sit quietly with our thoughts. These moments allow us to slow down and approach self-reflection with intention. Self-reflection requires us to be brutally honest with ourselves. It's easy to get caught in the trap of self-deception or to rationalize our behaviors and decisions to avoid discomfort. However, in order to truly grow and understand ourselves, we must be willing to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. This means looking at our mistakes, our regrets, and our vulnerabilities with compassion, but also with clarity. It means acknowledging our flaws and shortcomings without judgment, understanding that they are part of what makes us human. Self-reflection is not about self-criticism, but about understanding the deeper reasons behind our actions and reactions. One of the most important aspects of self-reflection is the ability to ask the right questions. Reflective questions can help guide our thinking and illuminate areas of our lives that need attention. These questions might include, what were the intentions behind my actions? What can I learn from this situation? How did I feel in that moment and why? What beliefs or values shaped my decision? How do I want to grow from this experience? These questions are not meant to offer immediate solutions or answers, but to open up a process of exploration. By reflecting on these types of questions, we begin to uncover the unconscious beliefs, desires, and fears that influence our behavior. This deeper awareness is what enables us to make more informed and intentional decisions moving forward. Another key component of self-reflection is understanding how our past experiences shape who we are today. Our upbringing, our relationships, our successes, and our failures all play a role in shaping our beliefs, attitudes, and ways of being in the world. Through self-reflection, we can begin to trace the roots of our behaviors and understand why we might react to certain situations the way we do. For example, we might reflect on how childhood experiences with caregivers shaped our sense of worth, or how past traumas influence our current fears and anxieties. By understanding these influences, we can begin to reframe our experiences and break free from patterns that no longer serve us. Self-reflection also offers an opportunity for gratitude and celebration. It's easy to get caught up in the negative aspects of our lives and focus solely on what isn't going well. But self-reflection is just as much about acknowledging our progress, our accomplishments, and the things we are doing right. It's about taking time to appreciate our growth, no matter how small the steps may seem. This kind of reflection fosters a sense of self-compassion and self-love, reinforcing the belief that we are worthy of celebration and kindness, even in our imperfect states. Furthermore, self-reflection can be a powerful tool for making decisions and navigating challenges. When we are facing a difficult choice or a life decision, taking time to reflect can help us uncover what truly matters to us. It can clarify our values and priorities, allowing us to make decisions that align with our authentic self. In moments of uncertainty, self-reflection can provide us with the clarity we need to move forward with confidence and purpose. The benefits of self-reflection extend beyond the individual. By engaging in reflective practices, we become better equipped to understand and empathize with others. As we deepen our own understanding of our emotions and motivations, we gain insight into the emotional experiences of others. This empathy fosters stronger connections and allows us to build more meaningful, compassionate relationships. It's also important to note that self-reflection is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing practice. We can reflect on our lives regularly in moments of peace or in times of turbulence. It's a continual process of learning and growing. Just as we evolve as individuals, so too should our reflections evolve, allowing us to gain new insights and perspectives as we change and develop. Self-compassion is one of the most transformative practices we can embrace on our journey towards self-understanding. It is the practice of treating ourselves with the same kindness, care, and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend during times of struggle or hardship. Yet, in a world that often prioritizes perfectionism, achievement, and self-criticism, it can be difficult to embrace this practice. We may feel as though we don't deserve kindness or that being compassionate toward ourselves is a sign of weakness. However, true strength comes not from harsh self-judgment, but from embracing our humanity with gentleness and care. At its core, self-compassion is about recognizing that we are worthy of love and care, even in our moments of imperfection or failure. It involves understanding that being human means experiencing pain, setbacks, and challenges, and that these are universal experiences, not signs of inadequacy. When we practice self-compassion, we acknowledge that we are doing our best, even when things don't go as planned, and we offer ourselves the same understanding and support that we would extend to others in similar circumstances. The key to self-compassion is creating a safe place for ourselves where we can connect with our true and authentic selves. One of the first steps in cultivating self-compassion is recognizing and acknowledging our suffering. In a culture that often pushes us to power through challenges and maintain a facade of strength, it can be tempting to ignore or suppress our pain. Yet ignoring our struggles only perpetuates feelings of isolation and shame. Self-compassion invites us to be present with our emotions, whether they are sadness, frustration, guilt, or disappointment, and to validate them rather than dismiss them. By acknowledging our pain, we give ourselves permission to be human and to experience emotions without judgment. Self-compassion also involves speaking to ourselves with kindness rather than criticism. Many of us are our own harshest critics, constantly focusing on our flaws, shortcomings, and mistakes. This inner critic often creates a cycle of negativity that can be difficult to break. But when we practice self-compassion, we replace that inner voice of judgment with one of understanding. When we run, for example, instead of berating ourselves for failing or making mistakes, we gently remind ourselves that we are human and that everyone experiences failure at times. We might say things like, I did my best and that's enough, or it's okay to make mistakes. I'll learn from this and grow. By shifting the tone of our internal dialogue, we can begin to break free from self-criticism and develop a more supportive and loving relationship with ourselves. Another important aspect of self-compassion is the recognition that we are not alone in our struggles. Often when we're going through difficult times, we feel as though we are the only ones experiencing such challenges. This sense of isolation can exacerbate feelings of shame or inadequacy. However, self-compassion reminds us that suffering is part of the shared human experience. We are all vulnerable and we all face hardships, whether visible or hidden. By recognizing that we are not alone in our pain, we can cultivate a sense of connection and empathy for others. This recognition can also help us realize that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and acceptance. Our imperfections are part of what makes us beautifully human. My imperfections and my beautifully human. Self-compassion is also about taking care of ourselves, both physically and emotionally. It's about recognizing our needs and prioritizing self-care in a world that often demands our attention in countless directions. Practicing self-compassion involves making choices that support our well-being, whether that's setting boundaries to protect our time and energy, getting enough rest, nourishing our bodies with healthy food, or engaging in activities that bring us joy and peace. When we show ourselves compassion, we make choices that reflect our worth, and we give ourselves the permission to rest, recharge, and replenish when needed. Another aspect of self-compassion is forgiveness. We all make mistakes, but too often we hold on to guilt or regret, punishing ourselves for things we've done or failed to do. However, holding on to these negative emotions only keeps us stuck in the past. Self-compassion involves letting go of the need for perfection and accepting that we are allowed to make mistakes without letting them define us. It's about recognizing that mistakes are opportunities for growth, not signs of failure. It's really about, by forgiving ourselves, we release the grip of shame and allow ourselves to move forward with a sense of freedom and possibility. Self-compassion also means allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. It's easy to hide our weaknesses or pretend that we have everything together, especially in a world that often values strength and achievement. However, true compassion arises when we allow ourselves to be seen, imperfections and all. By embracing vulnerability, we give ourselves permission to be authentic and real. This opens the door to deeper self-acceptance and real connections with others. Importantly, self-compassion does not mean we are passive or complacent in the face of challenges. In fact, self-compassion is an active process. It doesn't mean resigning ourselves to our circumstances or ignoring our mistakes, but rather acknowledging where we are, embracing the challenges we face, and committing to taking the necessary steps to improve, all while treating ourselves with kindness. Self-compassion encourages us to be proactive in addressing our needs, learning from our mistakes, and pursuing growth in a way that is aligned with our values and desires. In conclusion, understanding ourselves is a transformative journey that requires vulnerability, confronting shame, self-reflection, and self-compassion. Each of these elements plays a vital role in helping us navigate the complexities of our lives and embrace our authentic selves. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we create the space for growth and deeper connections, recognizing that our imperfections are part of what makes us human. Confronting shame is the necessary step in breaking free from the limiting beliefs that keep us from living fully, teaching us that our worth is not defined by our mistakes, but by our intrinsic value. Through self-reflection, we gain insight into our actions, values, and motivations, empowering us to make more intentional choices and grow in alignment with who we truly are. And by practicing self-compassion, we learn to treat ourselves with the same love and understanding that we so freely give to others, acknowledging our struggles with kindness and care. This process of self-understanding is not a destination, but a continuous journey of growth and discovery. It takes patience, courage, and a willingness to embrace both our strengths and our flaws. As we move forward, we must remember that we are deserving of love, acceptance, and kindness, not only from others, but from ourselves. By embracing these principles, we can live more authentically, make choices that align with our true values, and create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling. In the end, understanding ourselves is not just about uncovering who we are, but about learning to live in harmony with that truth and embracing the beauty of the person we are becoming. And that is the complexity of our humanity.